Morning, Tina.
Good morning. I knew Marshall was just going to blow me away with his big truck and get there in person.
Good. Right. Well, welcome everyone to our March Economic Development Board meeting. Thank you for braving the roads and getting here. It's so much nicer to see as many as we can in person, especially for the first time for some of our new board members. So glad to have you here. We one thing I'll clarify at the top, our clerk Cronin has asked us to be concise and efficient today. There's a ton on the agenda and I think lots of things we could talk about, but to keep things moving, the one thing we will do, and rather than reading motions, we'll refer to them in the agenda unless we change a motion. Oh, yes. So the Economic Development Board meetings are available live through Zoom, and recordings may be posted online on the County of Huron's YouTube channel. You may be seen and or heard as part of these broadcasts, and your name, comments, and or presentation materials will become part of the record. So moving to item 2, then approval of the agenda. And I'm moving in the seconder. Trevor? Is there a seconder?
Tina had her hand up.
Oh, did she? Sorry. Any more discussion on that motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Then 3, declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Is there anyone that has any interest in any agenda items today? Seeing none, we'll carry on. Minutes of the previous meeting, the January 9th Economic Development Board meetings. Everybody have a look at them. Any errors, omissions? Seeing none, then we have a motion in the minutes, moved by Past Warden McNeil, seconded by Tina. Did you want to do that one? Thanks. Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So 5, presentations, none. 6 is opening comments from the chair. There's 2 things that or actually 3 things. One is that our economic development won second at the Economic Development Council of Ontario for our succession planning project. It was the only one of a rural nature. And I think that's just awesome for us to get that recognition. It was tremendous work, and it's still rippling through the rest of rural Ontario and wanting to, farm credits wanting to use our podcasts, and it's just amazing what I believe it's done and brought to light as well, right? So the other thing is that there's Thrive is coming up on April 14th and 15th. Keep that in mind. And the one thing that I want to make comments on, that's a little bit of the elephant in the room, but is President Trump and his tariffs. And it's hard to have an economic development meeting without putting that on the table. It's certainly challenging times, and things obviously are very fluid from day to day. And it's darn scary for the public, people in business, whether it's small business, large business, automotive, all those things. The farmers, the issues coming out of the US farmers is unheard of, right? So there's an awful lot of pressure. I guess the one thing to draw attention to is that our board is an advisor to county council, so our direction comes from county council as to what we do and can do. So we need to bear that in mind. We do have, on the agenda is our operational plan for this year. And there are certain segments as we get into it, you'll see that as a board, we might have an opportunity to we have some wiggle room that we could use to try and help support business and the farmers in the county. But we also need to keep our framework as where our world is and what we can do and influence. That sort of thing. I just wanted to say that at the top of the meeting, and I'll cut it off there. 7 is board member comments. I don't know if anybody has any comments or wants to make any comments on the tariffs. We may do so now, as long as it's try and keep time in mind. Any board member comments? Yep.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think that this, and I concur with you, that it's a time of uncertainty. And it is very stressful to a lot of different people in a lot of different ways because of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And I would suggest we're at a point, and it is our responsibility as leaders to demonstrate kindness to everyone, because we don't know what everyone is going through or what they feel may be the consequences. So as leaders, I think it's very important that we are level, listening, and kind.
So. Yep.
Not on the tariffs. I just wanted to bring the committee up to date. We had a meeting, Mayor Ginn, myself, Mayor Finch, Sweat was there as a business owner. We had the owner of Tim Hortons as well. There's a couple other business owners that they're failing.
McDonald's and
Justin Reed. Yeah, in regards to the issues that they're having with their foreign workers not receiving permanent residency. So, they end up, coming and working. They're valuable employees. They're valuable to the community. We've seen it, throughout Huron County, and then they get to that 2-year period and then they have to go back. So housing is a crisis, but this is also another crisis with our local businesses, right? So we're trying to figure out a way to advocate to hopefully correct that issue for our local businesses. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention.
Yep, thanks, Trevor. Other comments? Tina?
Yeah, Trevor, just to speak to that point, because PR is a federal issue, what can we be doing about that, do you think? Or is there any way we can be helping as a board?
I think probably letters would be the first start, but then also talking to someone like Ben Lobb as well, having communication with him. We have talked to Lisa Thompson. Lisa is obviously provincial, but there's a connection there. Just continuing to make them more aware and actually having the businesses have conversations as well. So we're looking at setting up a meeting with Ben, to try to solve some of these issues and see if we can speed up the process.
If this is really hard because I'm not in the room and nobody can catch my eye to back me down on this. Sorry, Susan, Vicky.
You look great.
No,
If you're missed for some reason, just politely just say, excuse me, and that's okay. This is how we roll it. It's good.
I wasn't missed, but I'm about to say something that you might not want me to say. So I'm just saying.
Do I need to stop the recording? I'm not. Go ahead.
What I'm wondering is it something that would be appropriate for the board to write a letter in support of? Would that help? Is that appropriate?
If I may, Mr.
Yes.
Chair, so one of the challenges that we face is that our funding comes from the federal government.
Yeah.
And so, and we're in a position right now where we haven't received confirmation of the funding for the program. And so we, as a body, as the corporation of the County of Huron, realistically speaking, we need to be really careful about our relationship with our funders. This is something that our politicians are very well aware of, that, you know, we have challenges with them. However, it's important to maintain positive relationships. It's okay if arm's length organizations have conversations with our funders, but we as a body, it puts us in a very difficult position to do that. Tina, I'm sure you're sensitive. You've been there, you've done that, you get it. This is absolutely something that's on our radar that we are monitoring very carefully. We just need to, you know, make sure that we receive our funding before the relationship goes in a not positive direction. I would say that's about as diplomatic as I can put it. But Vicky may have some additional thoughts as well.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, not only do we need to manage carefully, there is a clause that if we advocate against our funding from IRCC for the immigration partnership, it will be revoked. So
Okay, we're not
so
gonna mess around.
Succinct.
there's being polite and reasonable and politically correct, and then there's an issue. But what I would like is to invite Mark just to speak to the work that has been done around immigration pathways, because we have been aware, and Mark has been doing work that falls within the mandate of the immigration partnership, just so the board members are aware of what is happening in that way. Mark?
Sure. One of the things that we focused on over the last year, because we've been hearing this challenge from both newcomers and businesses, is working with immigration consultants and immigration lawyers to help people understand how to become permanent residents within Canada through the various pathways that exist. So we've hosted 3 webinars. One was in December with a lawyer from Toronto who donated their time and went over the changes to the temporary work laws and the post graduate work laws as well, and tried to share that information. They've been attended by about 98, I counted the other day, people in 2024. We have also hosted those workshops in Spanish and Ukrainian, because that's where we saw a lot of questions. So we've done English, Spanish, and Ukrainian. We've got a request for one in the Filipino language of Tagalog. So we're planning that for April as well. So it's something that we're very aware of and working on. We're also working to develop some more resources for people to understand the processes to go through to become permanent residents.
And Vicky, did Colin Carmichael from the Huron Chamber of Commerce reach out to you? Because I believe he said that he had a conversation with you or Chris regarding this meeting. It was just more for information purposes. He didn't want to step on anyone's toes, but you know, I felt providing a little bit of an update of what was going on would be appropriate. So
Yeah,
Through
if
you-
I may, Vicky, I'll just say
thank you.
quickly before I turn it over to you. Certainly the warden and I were invited, but it was a very tight time frame and turnaround for being able to participate. And Vicky was unaware that the meeting was happening.
Okay.
She didn't find out about it until after I forwarded the invitation to
Good to know.
her. So,
Yep.
you know, I think
No.
there may be some communication challenges
Okay.
there right now. And I think, you know, the importance of everybody staying in their lane, I think is something that is certainly coming to the fore in relation to a number of issues.
I appreciate that.
And Vicky, I don't know, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
The only thing that I wanted to clarify through you, Mr. Chair, was that Colin Carmichael did reach out and invite Mark to participate. Of course, we had to decline because it would seem to be advocacy. And then once we declined, although we knew an event was coming, we did not know the date or time. So we did have a conversation, and we had to respectfully decline to honor our contractual agreement.
Can I was just
Yep, Lynn.
going to comment on Vicky's about the proposed letter, and that it's advised not to do that. It's unfortunate that as a board representing this county, that we providing a letter with constructive respective feedback on our funding, it may have a negative impact on our funding. Because how do funders know what the issues are to fund if they're not hearing from the groups that they're funding? Just a comment. So that's really unfortunate.
So if I may, through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the
Go ahead.
opportunity to provide feedback through our communication channels. The person who manages our contract, we can give constructive feedback on our funding, but we can't advocate against our funder and their policies.
Which is unfortunate, I guess, because it can be done in a very respectful way, but it's just unfortunate that we would be afraid to do that because it may impact. That's just a comment on, yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, I think we are not against IRCC or anything. We are just suggesting that if there is a program in Sarnia, rural program with population of 100,000 city, then we need rural program with population of 8,000 or even lower county or small communities, right? So I think it's just a suggestion that if you can bring that program to Sarnia and Lambton, then probably we also need that program. Because when we had meeting, Justin from McDonald's, he owns 6 locations in Huron County. He has 60 immigration workers, foreign workers, and their work permit is expiring. And with the rules change in last year, there is no way they can renew their work permit. So what he's gonna do, there are 6 Tim Hortons in Huron County. He has at least 20% of foreign workers. Their work permit is expiring. As a new business owner, I have 6 foreign workers, but their work permit is, everyone gets 2 years of work permit. Their work permit is not expiring this year, but I'll be on the same page next year, right? So it's like without all of this thing, it will be really hard for us to run a business in Huron County, and it will affect our economy and everything, right?
Mr. Chair, if I may, just for clarity, the program that is referring to is the READY program, the Rural Economic Development Immigration or Immigrant Program. And that was part of the conversation that was held with the chamber, is that we should apply for that and we should dedicate resources to participating in that. But once again, that would require adjustments to our mandate and the work that we're doing and staffing resources to do that. I just wanted to offer clarity.
Yeah, thanks. Tina?
Vicky, does the Reddit program allow us to circumvent any of the express entry categories? For example, like keeping up with express entry is the really challenging part, right? We're trying to balance long-term economic gain with, the short-term labor market needs. And so I know some of the categories were dropped, which was baffling. I'm happy to see they've added more trades, but they dropped truck drivers. Like, it's just, for our county, it's tough. So would REDUP, I'm not familiar with that one, would it allow us to create different categories for our county?
I would defer that question to Mark. Mark, does the READY program allow us to create different categories?
So I'm more familiar with the federal program, which was also a rural program to allow immigrants to come and the community to decide which immigrants get to be suggested for permanent residency. I would imagine this is the same, but again, this is why we have to rely on immigrant lawyers and immigration consultants, because this is what they specialize in, is keeping abreast of all the changes happening in real time. So I'm happy to request for one to come to the board and provide more information if that would be desired.
I think that would be fabulous, because of that. I understand that it would take time and we may not have that time, and ultimately that's up to the board to decide, but I'd hate to not look at that as an option if that's something that could really help us. Those are my thoughts. Anybody else?
Anybody else have a comment on that? would just say, Vicky, does it make sense to do we put some staff effort into it and then review it at another meeting, next meeting, that sort of thing?
Yes, Mark and I had discussed this briefly yesterday, and he can make the time to bring a report back to the board to more fully explain the immigration situation. And hopefully by the next meeting, we have a new signed 3-year contract. So we'll see Mark on a couple of things.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Report back.
Okay,
Just a motion for that report. You all right?
yes, so we should have a motion then to look into that. Somebody want to make a motion then to refer that to staff?
I'll
Trevor
move that.
moved, Tina seconds. Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Our clerk will craft something very,
It's gonna be beautiful.
that'll be-
Next.
thank you. So, any other board member comments? And, moving on, we have no correspondence. Going to 9. When, we have 9.1 and 9.2, which is our December and January department updates. We're gonna make those 2 into 1 motion. But first, I'll ask for any questions of staff or our director on either one of those department updates. Anybody have any questions, concerns? Seeing none, then I will ask for a motion to include December and January's 2025 update. Have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Lynn, seconded by Roz. Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So moving on is 9.3 Ministry of Rural Affairs Strategy Overview. Director Lass, are you okay to handle that?
Absolutely. If there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to take those at this time. The report is a result of attending Roma, where the Minister of Rural Affairs launched their strategic overview. I felt it was important to give you an overview of what was presented, and you will see that a lot of our operational plan aligns nicely with the strategic plan of the Ministry of Rural Affairs. So I am open for questions.
Any questions then on that report? Seeing none, then we will deal with the motion as printed in the agenda. Have a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Warden and a seconder. Roz? Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 9.4 Farm Succession Planning Project Update.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Again, I'm open for questions. This is an update on some of the outcomes and results of the Farm Succession Planning Project, which you referred to earlier with regards to the EDCO award. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those at this time.
Any comments, questions on that? Again, at the start of the meeting, I talked about how well the staff and handled that and did a tremendous job with it. So
If I could, Mr. Chair, and just to congratulate everyone involved with that project, and especially the staff for initiating it, because it is so important, not just for farmers, for all businesses throughout Huron County. And to be recognized for this is also augments the importance of it. So congratulations to all involved with this.
thanks for those comments.
Excellent.
Tina?
Yeah, I think it's a real testimony to the work, pardon me, that was done, that, you know, sometimes when we launch podcasts or things into the digital world, we're anxiously looking at how many likes and how many downloads. But I think it's really starting to get a second set of legs now, because you're seeing other municipalities come out and say, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Can we use that? That's the ultimate compliment. And I think, it's always been great work watching this project come alive and move along and get stronger and branch out. But now that it's really starting to have an impact. So it's so impressive. Really, really wonderful job. Well done.
Thank you.
Good.
And thanks to everyone who participated on the board. I think I mentioned last time, Roz has been directing and emceeing all of our podcasts. Past Warren McNeil participated, Derek Van Deeten participated. Don't think I forgot, and Brittany had a very big role in making sure that everything was coordinated. And so just thanks to everyone who participated.
Yeah, I gotta comment that Roz sure has a silver tongue, doesn't she? Can't believe she's not in sales somewhere. Right, any other comments? All right, so we have a motion on the agenda under 9.4. Can I have a mover and a seconder then to?
Happy to do that.
That's Warden McNeil. Who else? John. Thank you. Any more discussion on that motion? Then we'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So moving on to 9.5 is our 2024 SLED program outcomes. And Rick Sickinger is gonna go through that with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Morning. Yeah, before we talk about opening SLED 2025, I thought we'd look back and see what happened in 2024. So we being the Economic Development Board, supported 16 projects in Huron County in 2024, totaling $100,000 investment. $90,000 of that 100,000 comes from the Economic Development Board's budget, and 10,000 comes through Community Futures Huron. We had 12 of the 16 projects complete in 2024. 4 had to be carried over for various reasons, which I mentioned in the report. And of the $100,000 initial investment through SLED, we've seen slightly over $356,000 in additional economic impact on top of the investment so far, and that's with 4 projects still outstanding. One of the trends that we've noticed over the last couple of years is that your ROI seems to be significantly higher for projects that are being run by not-for-profit organizations and events. That's like very significantly higher than we're seeing in other types of projects that were funded. And you'll see that with the Rural Talks to Rural event this fall, the liveries, the production of the Streamliners, Pride Festival, and in the Salted experience. So those have this in 2023 and 2024 seem to generate much more economic impact than some of the other projects you're funding. Just saying. I'm not gonna have a bias. And then the 4 projects that have carried over into 2025 is a program that the Exeter BIA is running on security cameras and lighting in their downtown core. They've had some issues. They had staffing changes, which necessitated carrying that over. Our wineries and breweries are working on some collaborative marketing. That is now well underway so that it's all ready to go for spring, summer 2025, promoting all 6 wineries and 6 breweries in Huron County. Van Egmond House was building a pavilion. It's a significant archaeological site, being the oldest building in Huron County. So of course they got delayed. They had to do an initial sort of test dig, and they did dig up a lot of artifacts where they want to put the pavilion. So those are all now being researched. If any of those artifacts are deemed significant enough, it will trigger a full-scale dig before they can build the pavilion. So they're in a holding pattern. And the municipality of Blue Water, it was doing a youth program. They got delayed. It turns out that most youth don't want to do government programs in the summer. So weird. So their project really got started in the fall with the start of the school year, but they've been running the programs and I think they're scheduled to complete their project in April. Hey, yeah, any questions about the projects in 2024?
Roz?
Just a comment, and there was a few things that struck me. One, I was incredibly struck by the ROI, almost 3.5 times the investment. But as you were talking, Rick, what really weighed upon me was the ROI in terms of reputation. This has been contagious, infectious. You talk about these events. They again really speak to the vibrancy of Huron County. And much like Tina spoke earlier, how our tools and podcasts are being picked up, people are picking up on this frequency, this vibrancy. Its ROI is shown in several ways, and I really don't want to understate that. It's just a terrific piece of work. The third point is I'm reminded of the incredible impact that the SLED accessibility investments have made. And specifically, I think back to Central Huron, the BIA many years ago, and that was sort of at the beginning. And now we just take that as mainstay. So this is incredible work, and what an incredible ROI.
Good. Thanks, Roz. Any other comments, questions? Tina?
I can't miss a chance to to say again how wonderful job you do with this, Rick. I know I've worked on SLED before as a judge, and I love the background you bring to every application. I know you work really hard with the applicants to make sure their application is as well presented as possible. But your context really is everything, and I know it is very helpful, not just to the participants, but to us as well. And I love that you're careful about looking at the geographical distribution and trying to make sure that the money is spread out amongst the county, and just that your work is very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well said, Tina. Any other comments, questions? If none, yes, Director Lass.
Just one other minor comment around the types of projects that are most successful that Rick pointed out. I think what we really enjoy and have seen is that in the past we funded the Celtic Festival, we funded the Livery Project, for example, and that's all they needed to be able to be more profitable, have a little nest egg, and be self-sustaining. And so that's another piece that we really like to see. We don't want to consider this annual funding unless there's something different in an organization that we're funding, but we look at it as seed funding. And also, to echo Tina's comments, we do look at this as also a sort of a funding program with training wheels. And so that coaching piece that Rick does so excellently, we're doing that so that they're successful at SLED and they understand the objectives. We're also doing that along with the reporting requirement, so that they're better prepared to go on to different levels of funding and to make those applications. So again, Rick does an excellent job at that training component. So even if you don't get money, you have received excellent training. So thank you to Rick.
Good. Any more comments and questions? Hearing none, then where are we? 9.5 in our agenda. There's a motion there. Can I have a mover and a seconder then for that? Oh, Lynn and Tina. Thank you. Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So then moving on to 9.6, Rick will lead us through the 2025 SLED program. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. Yeah, so we would be looking for approval from the board to open SLED 2025 next Monday on March 10th. And then in the report, it says until April 11th. I don't know where I picked that date. I have a theory. My theory is that I was trying to avoid Thrive, that we would close SLED before we did Thrive on the 14th. However, thinking about it this morning, if we may, Clerk Cronin, change that motion to think about April 17th as a closing date, just in terms of, I think it would be a good opportunity at Thrive to say that SLED is closing later that week. Get your applications in while we have that audience. So I'm like, let's go after SLED.
Thrive is 14th, 15th. Which date did you want to use?
The 17th, so the Thursday close of day on the 17th as the closing date. Before.
Very flexible. Okay. Thought you could be accommodating.
Thank you.
Wow, Rick. That's incredible.
That doesn't explain that kicks over here.
Taken many years.
Looking better.
That was my insight.
And then in terms of, there's very few changes. Other than, asking if looking at the program eligibility and criteria, if there are any recommendations or changes that the board would like to see. One of the ones that I have as a recommendation is like we have some challenges every year with projects finishing on time, although it's very clear in the application project that projects need to be finished by year end, December 31st. So, we don't want to be punitive, but like, do we want to have part of the eligibility criteria or not? Is that if you have an outstanding project still, are you eligible to apply again in 2025 if you still have a 2022-24 project outstanding?
It's a good point.
Right. I used to do that.
Yeah,
I have
Lynn.
a question.
Just saying, yeah.
Not, I would say with Huron Heritage Fund, the way that it ran is if they had an outstanding project, they would be eligible to be considered.
Right.
That was what it was. It doesn't exist anymore as a
Yeah,
program.
yeah, but it's a little bit of pressure to finish on time. It's kind of benign without being too draconian, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, for consideration.
Lynn's got a comment.
I just had a question, Rick. So with respect to that, are the recipients of the funding, are there formal reporting requirements that they have to do, like
Yes.
fund up until the end of December? Okay.
So the way that the program works, that upon approval, they get 50% of the approved amount from SLED, and they get the remaining 50% upon receipt of their final report. Which again, in the program application, it says, here's what you will be asked for to report on, just so that they know going in that this is the kind of data they'll need to collect and report on. So we do hold back half the payment until we get the final report and the final report is complete.
And so that 50%, like the last 50%, if it doesn't look like they're going to complete the project, what do you do? I just wondered, like, do you say, oh, you're not getting your money, or do you, I'm just wondering.
We've never had anybody 100% not complete the project. We've just had people go over, right?
Okay.
During COVID, we had people go way over,
Sure.
but that was
Yeah.
understandable.
Yeah, okay.
So we're still like trying to rein it in a bit. And again, as Vicky said, part of this is we very much see this as a training wheels type funding program of learning, like, in terms of funding programs through the province and the federal government, that, this is what you're going to have to do as a not-for-profit organization if you want to be successfully funded by those other government programs as well. The other thing that I would say in terms of the objectives of the program, Vicky and I attended a meeting this winter, and somebody asked us about SLED and why it particularly didn't talk about projects contributing to the cultural vibrancy of Huron County. So I made a note of it. I'm putting it out there. we can add it to the program, or we can just leave it alone, because it does talk, I think, within the objectives anyway, building a stronger sense of community. They were particularly pointing out, that maybe it should also include cultural vibrancy. That's it for what my feedback is.
Comments? Yeah, Trevor.
Did they provide examples, Rick, when the person made that comment to you and Vicky?
I think it was more that they were looking at it for like, it seemed very economic development based, of course.
Yeah.
And what about quality of life?
Okay.
What about doing things, supporting things, and being quite transparent about that are supporting a good quality of life and cultural vibrancy in our communities. Go ahead, I don't disagree with it.
It can be just a discussion, I think.
If I may, through you, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
Director Lass, yes.
We did point out that we are not cultural services, and we do have a department that does cultural services, and that we do focus on economic development. This particular cultural organization has received SLED funding at least twice in the 3 years I've been here. So, we did point out that it's not exclusive, but we aren't advertising solely for cultural services. We do need to see an economic impact, because that is who we are. So we did try to make it clear that we don't, as you can see from the breadth of projects that are funded, we do fund cultural projects when a demonstrated economic impact can be shown. It's always difficult. The funding landscape has tightened immensely over the last few years. And so there are some frustrations. And Rick, I assume you'll speak briefly to Access SLED or SLED Access. Access SLED. This was another one that came up repeatedly. Businesses or in particular, organizations supporting businesses were frustrated that we weren't doing accessibility funding. And so Rick will update you on that as well.
Yeah, so one of the changes this year is that the Huron County Accessibility Advisory Committee will be running Access SLED, a funding program concurrent to SLED. So it will appear to the public that there are two streams of SLED, the sort of regular stream that we've been doing for the last few years, and then Access SLED will be funding accessibility projects. And Susan, do you want to speak a bit more to that program?
I certainly can. So accessibility is under my portfolio, and honestly, we had some money. SLED is a tremendously successful program, and what we thought was we would basically rip off and duplicate what they do, because they do it so well. And so we're going in partnership with it. And it is an opportunity to receive grants up to about $1,000, and specifically to make your space more inclusive and accessible. The biggest component to this is the education piece, and because people want to make their places accessible, they just don't know how. So the goal is more an education and an awareness piece, and we're going to give you some money to do it. So we will follow the exact same process that the SLED does, because it is tremendously successful. And we are hoping that this will be successful as well. We have some money for this year. We're hoping to have some money next year if it's successful. And then if it is successful, we may have to go to county council with a real big smile and ask for more. We're hoping this is going to be a continual project for years to come. So any questions on that?
Good. Questions for Susan and Rick? Do you have more, Rick?
No, I do not.
Any special questions? I guess the one thought then, you made two recommendations, I believe.
Yes.
On the cultural and projects that are not completed by year end, repercussions. Is that something that we can agree as a group, knowing that Rick's recommended it versus putting it into a motion? Thoughts?
Mr. Chair, I feel that the stated criteria around community development allow us to do cultural projects. I myself don't advise that we explicitly state cultural projects unless we confer with cultural services and we look at if there's additional funding. I think that we have demonstrated that we give funding to cultural projects, and but it is in that vein of community and economic development, community vibrancy and economic development.
What, do you have a comment on projects not completed by year end? Do we exclude them from the following year till the project's completed?
Part of what we are concerned with is that there is a capacity to complete a project, and if an outstanding project is not completed, I would wonder if there is capacity to take on another. So I do agree with that recommendation.
Which I'm assuming when people are judging those, that's obviously something you would look at and say, gosh, they already have another project outstanding. Do we really want to commit more dollars till it's done? So that could be done through the process.
When we work with the judging panel, Rick is very good at explaining the background on all of the projects and what that looks like. And that has always been included if it's an issue. So I don't see any difficulty with that information being provided.
Thank you. Roz?
Yeah, I go back and forth on a couple feelings this way. One is it's a training ground, and I think as you just explained it, that in judging, you would look at the accountability to have finished a project, and the training component would come into that feedback that said, here's how you would have been it would have been successful had you done this, and here's some resources and tools that we can help you. So I think it can be handled as is, and with that gentle feedback and that helpful feedback that's given and pointing to the tools, because again, they're in the training wheels and they'll get that support. The other comment is I think I'm firmly in the camp as well of feeling that community development embraces the thought of cultural, that the existing examples show that these sort of endeavors have been supported. So the proof is in the pudding and it's been proven. And that there is a very clear lens, and I don't think we have to be apologetic for that.
Good comments. Any other comments then? So it sounds like as far as the recommendations, I think we're comfortable, Rick, with those, dealing with it.
I think we're gonna do a motion. I'm just because we're actually kind of adding to the program, we're gonna tweak your program a bit just with this. So I'm suggesting, I'm looking down the table here. The Activaport approve the following being added to the SLED program. Only one project may be funded at a time. Does that encompass it?
I think what,
If it's open, you can't do another one.
yeah,
Okay.
here's what I thought I was hearing, that did not maybe want to do that. And I have concerns about it myself, in that, you know, for example, municipality of Blue Water has the youth project that is outstanding. Exeter BIA, because of no fault of their own. But the way I'm thinking we could address it is this year when they get their approval, like we can deal with that they already have an outstanding project, and like maybe ask for a timeline for completion of that before it comes to the jury this year, and the jury can make that decision. But in their approval letters this year is where we can start to say, if you do not finish on time, you will not be eligible to apply in 2026. So that they have lots of forewarning that you need to finish this project on time, or it will start to impact your eligibility.
So start to put the teeth.
That seems like a fairer way to do it.
Right.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, if I could just, for Cronin is wordsmithing this. There's such a demand for this program. I think it is appropriate that if a grant has been awarded to an entity, that it is respectful that they complete that project before they would be eligible for future granting. I think that's fair to everyone. And so I would support the change in date, and I would also support that if, and the wordsmithing of a program is not completed, a person or an entity would not be eligible to apply at that time. I think that's fair to everyone in the interest in the program. That would be my comment for others' consideration.
Okay. Other comments? Tina?
I hate to disagree with Glenn. And
However.
I'm not sure that I am, because I respect and adore you so much, Glenn. Here's my only caution, and is that, you know, we trust our economic development staff so much, and they're the ones that are closest to the decision making. I have faith in Rick and whoever is on the team doing this, that they can manage this. And so I'm always hesitant to make regulations or rules more restrictive. I like to give the staff as much flexibility as possible. It's like when we're donating money to a cause, for example, we try not to put in our contract or our agreement with the foundation that the money must be used for these needs. There's always a clause in our document that says, and if it's not, or if there's no eligible person, then it can go elsewhere. So all that to say, I just, obviously I'll go with the board's flow on this, and I don't have super strong feelings about it, but I just would hesitate to put any more restrictions on this, because I don't want to tie the hands of the staff in any way. That's my thought for consideration.
There's greater opportunity in getting the entities that are yet to complete, use that to get them to complete. There's more strength there than to eliminate applying. Yeah, use it as a stick for completion versus I think versus let them not reapply.
Mr. Chair, if I may through you, a suggestion was made that maybe the wording might be something to the effect of priority will be given to projects that do not have an outstanding SLED application, which might be a little softer. So something to consider.
And I'm good with that, Mr. Chair. The sentiment is sent. I think that's.
So given that, do we need a motion stating that, or is that something we can
I think
leave?
so.
You want a motion?
Still a motion?
I would like a motion.
Really will be given
Yeah, thank
to,
Not me.
I'm,
Now we apply the 20.
That anymore. Maybe it's the crown.
Mr. Chair?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chair, how overapplied is this program? I guess, is that the concern, that we're overapplied and some may not get a chance if others are still held up, or is that a non-issue?
I mean, there's a lot of applications, right?
Yeah, we've been well oversubscribed for the past 2 years and to be fair, the jurors have done their best to approve as many as possible and, reduce amounts asked for that so that they could still do the project. So we were doing as much as we possibly could, but we have about 50% more applications than we do ability to fund.
One thing that Rick does very well is guide us as to if we don't give them the full amount, will the project still go ahead or will it be dead? And we try and use that to spread the money out even thinner and try and help as many projects kind of thing. So I mean, that's Rick's good guidance and knowing the projects very well and the groups that are applying, so. Yeah.
So with that, I actually don't oppose Glenn's suggestion at all. I think if it's overapplied, and I think it's quite reasonable to expect that if you have something outstanding, then you're not applicable for the next run.
So the motion would be a little more teeth to it versus priority.
We're all over the map, aren't we?
Well, let's
Oh,
get some the second and then we
The
can.
economic development approved the following being added to the SLED program. So I went back to these. So priority will be given to applicants that have fully completed funded projects.
Is that enough
Is that enough?
I'll move that.
teeth? Okay, moved by Oxford McNeil, seconded by, yep, Gordon Heifer. Any more discussion on the motion?
And do we need to incorporate the change of date, Mr. Chair, in this to extend it?
I think we'll do that in the second motion.
Okay,
Oh, that's in the second motion. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Rick's report and motion will just change to the 17th because I'm super flexible. Can we
Oh.
call the vote?
Roz?
Yeah, just a clarity with that motion, and it's a nuance. When we read that, is it a standalone comment? Because it might be construed that if you have previously completed one, then you'll be given priority. And we just mean that if you have an outstanding, or if you somehow it needs to be that it's not, if you have a track record of getting these, you have a priority over getting them. That's how it came across to me. So I just wondered.
As I agree with you, because when I was reading it, I was like, this does look like if you've received
one
one, you get a, yeah, so I agree with that. So just let me
Okay.
get this for a minute.
Yeah. Just nuance.
Can I ask a question of Rick?
Yes, go ahead, Lynn.
Within the applications, is it explicit? Like, does it say explicitly that funds must be used by December 31st, 2025?
It says, the exact wording is projects must be completed by December 31st, 2025,
Period.
period.
Could we add within the funding proposal, if your project is not completed by this date, this will have an impact on future applications?
Yeah, we could certainly add, if not completed by this date, it will affect your eligibility in 2026.
As long as it doesn't open the window that, okay, we don't have to absolutely be done.
Yeah, but it's also, we're not explicitly saying then, how it affect, just that it, will.
And in the wording, like, using, will affect as opposed to may affect.
Yeah.
Right, being, I don't know. Would that help with the motion?
I'm wondering if I just add, priority will be given to new applications and applicants that have fully completed funded projects.
Yeah.
Does that work? It doesn't identify, okay. Is that okay with the mover and seconder?
yes.
Yep.
Okay, they're both in favor.
New application.
Any more comments on that motion?
Through you,
Confused,
Mr.
You're
Chair.
oversubscribed by 50% all the time, or 100% all the time?
Pardon?
You're oversubscribed by 100%.
Yeah. We just see that growing year over year.
Yes.
Okay.
Who else was saying something over here?
Through you, Mr.
Director
Chair, I was
Ross?
just going to make one comment for our new board members so they understand. We have a page on our website that describes the SLED program, and that's where the actual wording will sit as to how you're qualified or not qualified to apply. And so beyond the motion, we will have the ability to massage that so it's quite clear to applicants. Okay.
Okay, so if no more comments, then we'll, we have a mover and a seconder. We'll call the question. All those in favor of that motion? Opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. So then we will then use the motion that's in the minutes under 9.6 with the amendment that the ending date be April 17th rather than the 11th.
And through you, Mr. Chair, we do need
Yes.
to have two board members nominated to be on the 3-person panel. The third person comes from Community Futures Huron as they help to support this program.
Okay. So let's deal with the motion then.
So we can put that in this here in the motion. So let's pick two or whoever wants to be on this committee, and it's and further that the Huron County Economic Development appoint somebody and somebody to be part of it, and the date will be the 17th.
Okay.
So we're going to do it all in one beautiful motion. Beautiful.
Well, I would volunteer. Is there anybody else that would like to volunteer? To be on that?
I did it last year and I enjoyed it. If no one else is interested, I'm
Anybody
happy to do
else?
it again.
Okay.
Okay, seeing
Also-
none, send the Lynn and myself.
Yeah.
That will be inserted into that amended motion. So any more comments? Seeing none, then, oh, we need to move it. Second. Can't vote yet. We're in after. Somebody want to second it? Draws? All right. So we will call the question then. All those in favor of that motion? Any opposed? Seeing none, it's carried.
Okay.
Good. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate all you do there. So moving on to 9.7, our succession planning working group update. Welcome, Brittany. Thank you for being with us. And
Thank
we
you.
will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So first of all, are there any questions about the report at all? Seeing none, okay. So as it outlines in the report, the working group has identified that they want to focus on education and training and marketing and awareness. Those are two of the four things that they'd like to focus on. And so one of the first projects is to have Tina deliver a succession planning session at Thrive, which will be called the Top 5 Mistakes Sellers Make and How to Avoid Them. And we would like to record this session as a podcast episode for the Huron County Life on a Coast podcast. And this will be the first of 4 to 5 succession planning sessions or certain podcast episodes that we'd like to do. At this time, we would like to ask for approval of a $1,500 expense for this initial podcast episode, which will include the recording, post-production, and promotional fees for this particular episode. And just a note that we will be coming back with another proposal in the future once we flesh out the rest of what that might look like. But just from a timing perspective, we needed to get approval for this initial podcast.
So Tina?
Thank you, Brittany. And to build on that a little bit, I didn't know I'd be speaking to a motion to record my own session. But aside, why is education so important about this issue? When I spoke with Jim Ginn about this last year, Mayor Ginn told me that one of the biggest challenges for small communities and rural communities is the closure of businesses. It's one of the things that mayors get the most phone calls about. None of us want to see empty storefronts. And we can all think of 1 or 2 or 3 over the past few years that have closed that we would have rather seen continue. A lot of businesses, especially service-based businesses, do not get that they do have something to sell, something of value, and or they wait too long to prepare for a sale. And then when you talk to them about the work that needs to be done to get their business ready for sale, they can't even. They're done. So we're seeing the closure of these businesses. It's really important that we get the word out as an economic development board through our small business center that, hey, you've got options. And up in Aurelia, they worked with the Nottawasaga Community Futures. We'd be working with Community Futures Huron. And they developed this really cool app to build a community called BizLink. And they've had great success with it. And I think it might be something that we look at in the future to have them come in and talk to the board. And give a presentation just on what they've done and the success that they've had, because we're looking at trying to recreate that. And Community Futures Huron is wonderful to work with on this. They are so on board. They're not looking for any money from us. They're just looking for some support right now. So educating and getting the word out that, hey, we're going to build this community. Hey, Huron County's ready for investment and we've got great businesses for sale. And hey, business owners, you've got something to sell. Education is the first piece. And right now, it's missing and businesses are closing and we got to stop that. So here's an opportunity to start getting education out there. You saw earlier in the meeting that succession planning, although it was the farming project specifically, but we just won an award for it, and it was the only award targeting this in rural areas, which is sad. We have money not spent every year on the board, and this is an opportunity to put funding, not a lot, into a boots on the ground opportunity. I don't care who's speaking. I think this is a great motion to support. So thank you for considering it.
Other comments, questions? Roz?
I'm just gonna echo fervently what Tina just said. Having driven a lot of the back roads recently with some other endeavors, I've encountered some businesses that have been successful, much like Tina's business, in their third year in of taking over a well-existing business. We've seen firsthand, Trevor, I know you see firsthand some examples on the square of treasured businesses that are tying up their legacy after many generations. I know of other people who are now on their third generation and did it without support. And I can think of people who are struggling and have no way to go about it. So I am a proponent of this. It feels like low-hanging fruit. And it feels like another example where we have so much talent and wisdom and tools at our hands to just make it available and coach and train and get ahead of it and educate. And again, I'll put on the collaborative hat that we talk about in our strategic plan, are really a great example. And if we can be helpful to others, and if they can be helpful for us, I think this is something every small municipality or rural area municipality and county really thinks about.
Good, thank you. Any more comments, questions, Trevor?
I'll make a comment and then I'll make the motion to support, but $1,500 is really pennies in regards to what we can actually get out of this and what the businesses can get out of it. And I'll use the town that I'm the mayor of right now. We're looking at a downtown dig. So we got to be able to communicate and help our businesses still keep their doors open throughout it and afterwards. And they're, like Roz had mentioned, there are those businesses that are, unfortunately, I'll use Finchers as an example. They're closing, the owners are retiring. And that has been a business that has been in our community for a long, long time. And it's going to be missed. But I think something like this, podcasts are very popular too, right? It gets the message across. People are more tuned into watching a podcast instead of reading a big, long memo about something. So, and I'm in full support, so I would make a motion to support it.
Sure. Well, while we're doing that, can I have a seconder for the motion printed in the agenda? Thank you. Any more comments, questions? We then have a mover and a seconder for our motion that's printed in the agenda, 9.7. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you.
So moving on to 9.8 Economic Development Department 2024 Annual Report presented by Director Lass.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased that you have printed copies in front of you today of our annual report. My apologies, Roz and Tina, that you don't, but we will get printed copies to you. This is a reflection of the work done by the department and some statistics to support that work. And I am open for questions.
Well, first off, I'll start with a comment. When you read through that, I cannot believe we did all that in 1 year. We must have a second and third floor of staff I don't know that are doing all these things. That's just amazing. So I'll turn it over. Anybody else have comments, questions?
Well done, just amazing, as you said, Mr. Chair.
Isn't it?
Why Huron County's a leader.
Yeah. Comments? Questions?
I guess just
Yeah,
I just want to follow up on the last call that we had. I just inquired about what our exports are of Huron County and kind of getting some idea of how much exports we
Actual
provide.
numbers and
Yeah, just some rough idea of
Stats.
like what goes into the US and I guess in connection with tariffs and everything else. I took a quick look through this and I didn't notice here, but I don't know if there's any data on that.
Director Last, do we have any access to any data on exports?
Our data at this moment is in relationship to exports is from our last BRNE, so a little bit dated. This is the year that we will be doing our business consultation process again in a big way. So looking to developing our next strategic plan. So we will be updating that data.
Okay.
We do know that we do quite a robust business with the US and have been speaking with businesses who do trade across the border. They've been reaching out to our business coaches for individual support at this point. So we're hearing a lot about innovative steps forward from some of our small businesses to address the current situation.
Other comments, questions? Yeah, Trevor.
Where can people find this?
You have the hot off the press copy, and so right now they can find
It's
it in our
warm still.
office. It is. It's in the office at this point. So what we will do next is this will go to County Council, and then copies are available within our office, and we will be taking some to the Thrive Summit. We did a limited print run this year. So if we have greater demand, we printed 50 copies. If we have greater demand, we can distribute it. We can print again and distribute more widely.
Thank you.
Can it be available electronically, or we just want it in print
It will be
format?
on it. No, it will be on our website electronically. So
Okay.
it will be posted as part of our reference material on our web pages.
All right, seeing no more comments then, the agenda under 9.8, we have a motion. Can I have a mover and a seconder to deal with that motion? Moved by Trevor, seconded by Lynn. Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 9.8. So moving on to 9.9, setting foundation for success. The 2025 operational plan for economic development presented by Director Lass.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to the board. You have in front of you a detailed breakdown of our operational plan through our 4 lines of business for the 2025 year. Just to frame this, that so first of all, we do have funding imperatives that we must meet. So they are reflected within this document. And a note that even though we get substantial funding from both our federal and provincial partners, that also takes substantial work. So that too, the reporting element is recorded here. This is based on the priorities of our current strategic plan, but we have added one priority. As you know, a strategic plan is a living document. And so we felt the need to add to our existing 4 pillars, a 5th, which is to stabilize. So we have been working diligently over the last 3 years to put into place processes, policies, standard operating procedures. And we felt that we just wanted to make sure that that work, which is quite significant, is reflected. And so we added that 5th pillar. Also that I want to highlight for the board that when we prepared this operational plan, we were fully aware that 2025 would be an economically challenging year. We have seen stressors on the economy coming out of COVID, and those have continued in some sectors. And so as we move forward, we are making sure that we're doubling down on good economic development and business practices. So making sure that we are always doing the things that we have been depended on to do. So making sure that we are supporting small business, that we are promoting our services, that we are offering relevant training opportunities. For example, the cash flow session that is coming up shortly. It's a great time of year as you're doing your taxes to take a look at your cash flow. It's also a great time of, it's a great economy to take a pause and take a look at if my inputs are changing and my markets might be changing. Let's go to the cash flow and see where we can have immediate impact on that. So it is designed not specifically to respond to tariffs, but it is designed to recognize, because when it was written, tariffs were a threat, not a reality. But it is designed to address an economy that might be somewhat chaotic this year. So I know that the chair invited tariff comments at this point. I also want to recognize, as was stated with the annual report, a department of 10 people did the work that you saw in that report. A department of 10 people will execute on this operational plan. So if there is a desire or recommendation by the board to make any significant changes, we will also need to discuss what goes. So I just wanted to highlight that for you before we open any sort of discussion or comment. Thank you.
Right, well, and I'll add to that, Vicky and I talked, gosh, 3 times this week, maybe 4, about the tariffs and the situation. And the one thing or 2 things that we feel that we can deal with through the operational plan is, as the federal and or provincial governments come with funding programs to help business, that we may be able to do something under the training component to help people understand what programs are out there. I think we saw through COVID, there's programs, a lot of people didn't understand them, didn't know how to apply for them, didn't get them. And the other thing that we really got to think about is mental health. I mean, for a small business and I think we could likely all think of 1 or 2 small businesses in Huron County that export 50, 60, 70% to the US. The stress that has got to create, not only for the owners but the staff as well. The challenges of that. My son just started into a sales position. He has Western US to sell fans. And he's like, what am I gonna do? Kind of thing. And that's just one example of what ripples through the county. So that's the one thing I think through the operational plan that we feel we can provide some of those supports. And as I said earlier, we are at the direction of county council. And so that direction needs to come from county council as to if there's something unusual or strategic that we need to be looking at. So
Through you, Mr.
Go
Chair.
ahead.
If I may, it might be helpful for the board to for us to highlight what we have been doing to date, in keeping with our normal course of business in the Economic Development Department. So you may have noticed, if you follow our socials, Rick has been leading a campaign around buy local. We have a number of social media posts going out on a regular basis, encouraging individuals and helping them to find resources to shop local. A digital decal has been created that it states Shop Huron. And a toolkit was created and is online and available for the use by our businesses to, it highlights how to brand yourself or what it takes to be labeled a product of Canada, made in Canada, use the Foodland brand, some well-recognized branding opportunities and how businesses can take advantage of those. We are making sure that we are continuing, as always, to support our agricultural community. So our initiatives like Foodpreneur continue. Rick and his team, as well as Brittany and yourselves, have contributed to the Taste of Trails project. So you helped to fund the merchandising session that is going forward. We are hosting Maple Mania again. We are looking to Oktoberfest in the fall, but we are continuing in any way we can to support our agricultural community. We always offer one-to-one business coaching. And as I said, we're starting to have businesses reach out to us and talk to us about opportunities and challenges that they are facing, especially if they are handling, selling, retailing American goods. We offer training programs, as I mentioned before, so the cash flow one is coming up. We have moved that from in-person in our boardroom to online digital so that we can accommodate more businesses and that is being promoted. And of course, as usual, the tax workshops and some creative workshops like Canva, and also Chris is doing daily updates for the team so that not everybody has to follow what is going on. So we're up to date on changes in announcements, implementation of tariffs, what that looks like, but also Chris is getting ready to disseminate information about funding programs. And so going back to a model where we can not only use our current newsletters and our social media channels to announce funding programs, but if it looks like they're complicated, do we do lunch and learns, or what does that look like? So we're poised and ready, making sure we're building those circulation lists so that if it is, for example, a funding program only for manufacturers, we won't distribute that to our hospitality businesses. We will target directly to, frankly, to improve our open rate and to have better knowledge sharing. Then the Thrive Conference has been built around tools and resources to make your businesses more efficient. So the Thrive Summit is actually targeted at businesses, not-for-profits, and our municipal partners. So there are various sessions, but we are looking, as you've heard already, at succession planning. We are looking at the use of AI for efficiencies in your businesses. We have a guest speaker whose title of their address, it's Brock Dickinson from University of Waterloo, a respected economist. And his title is, oh, and I just forgot it. Tell me, Rick.
It's the REM song. It's the end of the world as we know it.
And then he puts
I
not.
feel fine, but then he adds not.
He adds not. It is not the end of the world as we know it. And he is
Did
very.
REM approve this?
I think he owes them some royalties.
Yeah. So he's very agile in his presentation. We heard his address at EDCO, and he completed the details of the address about an hour before he walked on stage. So it will be a very agile presentation that looks at the State of the Union and opportunities. So he's a really talented speaker. The other thing we're doing with Thrive is last year where we partnered with our 9 partner municipalities to highlight the ECDEV programming that they were doing. This year, we're partnering with our community safety and well-being committee members from our 9 municipalities. And again, although we're not explicitly announcing that we're doing this because of tariffs, it is very important when the economy is chaotic in any way. When we're facing a recession or hard economic times, community becomes that much more important. And so we felt that highlighting the work of our community safety and well-being partners throughout our municipal partnerships, it was good timing. There will be some really good sessions that are designed around mental health and that element from a workplace, but also from personal mental health, sort of put your oxygen mask on first kind of address. And also looking at tools and resources for businesses to help regain a feeling of safety and control. And so we're doing that partnership as well. None of this has been promoted as explicitly responses to tariffs because it has been designed prior to tariff announcements to deal with the fact that our economy was facing some challenges. But all of this work is reflected in our operational plan, and it is the normal course of business for what we do. We're just honing things a little bit more at this time.
So, questions on the operating plan? Yes.
Mr. Chair, it's really important, and I appreciate Vicky sharing what what we're doing. I think that's so important to share what we have been doing, what we are doing, what we will continue to do. And I think that stability replaces some of the knee-jerk reactions that seem to be taking place. So I think, Vicky, I appreciate that. I think that's the message for us as a board. We just consistently, here's what we have been, will be doing, and takes some of those waves out and levels them out.
Good point. Good. More comments? Yeah.
Yeah, I just say that, so in my landscape, of course, there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty about what's happening with the economy and the impact that it's going to have in various levels of government. And I think the responsible thing to do is to continue to lean on those who are experts and those who are at the province and the federal level of government to lead the way. I think that's what a lot of organizations are doing, and we stay in our lane and continue to support local economy and small businesses and that sort of thing. And then, and I would say that overwhelmingly, that's the most responsible way for us to go about to continue to navigate. And just as comments have been made about trying to bring the temperature down a little bit. We've been through uncertainty before. We're going to be through uncertainty again. And if we start panicking, then that becomes something that happens in the community and those that we are interacting with. And we have a responsibility to try and keep our heads on straight and doing the good work that is reflected in this operational plan and in the annual report that is outlined in front of you.
Good. Thank you.
Roz?
Roz?
Yeah, wonderful comments, and Megan, thank you for those. Having lived through some energy downturns, some significant energy downturns, and the anxiety and things associated with that, which were dramatic. As I reflect on this 2025 plan, of course, it's robust, it's fulsome. You might say it's ambitious, but what gives me great confidence is it's very squarely focused on control what you can control. And at its foundation, I put down some notes here. What gives me great confidence, and I don't say this with faint praise, is having, with a lens of workforce development of what makes organization successful. This is a highly functional, high performance team. And I say that because it can balance strategic and what's right in front of it. And one of the big things I took note of is the HBC, the blocking and tackling, the day-to-day that is so solid, the SOPs, the way that, and I think this is often overlooked at how incredible this is, the way that communications and marketing has been embedded within the operational maneuvers of each area. It's not done by a third party, it's embedded, and that's a strong sign of high performing organizations. That's a really great strength. I love the inclusion of shockproofing. Care for the caregiver. It's turbulent within it. So if we're caring for everyone else, we got to care for ourselves. And I was really pleased that that's thoughtful. Having been engaged with staff, anytime that there's been transitions, they've been seamless. And so the foundations are strong, and that gives me great confidence in the high performance functioning of this team and staff and all the supports. And I don't say that faintly. I think this tees us up for incredible strength.
Good. Well said. Any other comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, in our agenda under 9.9, we have a recommended motion. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that motion? Moved by Tina, seconded by Lynn. Any more discussion to that motion? We'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. mean, it's a hot topic and it will be for some time, but as we've learned, that operational plan will help us through that and keep us moving forward in a steady manner. And that's what the public needs to see. So moving on to 10, financial statements are currently not available. We don't have any need for a close to the public session. Then prior to the next meeting discussion, I believe Director Lass would like to share a few words with us.
I just wanted to share that I really appreciate the input, feedback, and discussions I've been having with some of our new board members. I love the creativity and enthusiasm that is being brought forward. And so in light of the fact that this is the year that we will be doing our next strategic plan for the department, we want to make sure the board is involved. We want to make sure that the creative voices around the table are heard. And so part of your agenda at the next meeting will be a brainstorming session. So Ezra has a bit of an advantage on all of you. He's got about 10 things he wants to talk to us about, and his enthusiasm is just, well, it's just a really lovely light in the current environment that our department is managing, that we just talked about. So thank you so much, Ezra, for bringing a number of ambitious ideas to the table. So in fairness to the other board members, we want to give you a couple of months to think about, where do you see opportunities to build on the direction that we're going, or projects that you feel we should be looking at in the theme of what we're doing, or is there a theme we're missing? Now, in the interim, I've referred you numerous times to our County Council strategic priorities. County Council will be updating those priorities prior to our next meeting. So we'll take a look at those. And then we will also do an open brainstorming session with the board where, and you know, as brainstorming goes, there are no bad ideas. Everything goes out on the table, and we'll have some fun with that. So I didn't want you to read that in an agenda the week before, because as I said, Ezra is way ahead of you. So, you know, in fair play, we're going to open up a brainstorming session. So bring all your wild and crazy and thoughtful ideas to the next meeting. And that, of course, will be an agenda item, but I wanted to give you some forewarning. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. So on the agenda, then our next meeting will be held in the boardroom here, May 8th at 9 a.m. Any other comments? Hearing none, then we'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Who would like to do that?
Brian, I think Tina had a comment. My apologies.
Oh, Tina,
Just
go ahead.
Just sneaking this in at the end, if I may. It's been mentioned before, the Thrive Conference is coming up April 14th and 15th. I know that board staff works so hard. It was a sellout crowd last year, but because it's aimed at succession planning, among other things, if you do know businesses in your communities that are selling or people that are looking to buy businesses, you may want to encourage them. I know that the department does a really good job of putting it out there on social media, but maybe if you could share that, forward it, talk about it in your communities, that would be terrific. Thanks.
Thank you. Britt, do you have any information as to when Eventbrite will open and there will be more information to share?
We are busy finalizing the details, lots of behind the scenes action happening right now. We are hoping to go out by like the middle or end of next week. We don't want to compete with the opening of SLED on Monday, so we're just really cognizant of maybe not clogging down our channels. And as well, working with the community safety and well-being folks. They're also very busy trying to confirm their folks as well. So yeah, I would say probably by the end of next week, that's our goal. As long as everything comes in as planned, that's our aim, is to have about a month of ticket sales.
Thanks, Britt.
Good. One other thing I'll mention, knowing our next meeting is in May. For the most part, when we come to a board meeting, there's parking right back behind the building. What tends to happen is we get clogged up here, especially if people park on both sides of the street. I don't want anybody to lose a mirror or anything else, but there's a sidewalk all the way back of the building. Right now, it's kind of half full of snow, but in May, it'll be open and it's a nice, easy place to park. And then get into the building, so. Anyway, so we'll move on then for a motion to adjourn our meeting. Moved by Trevor, seconded by Warden Hooper. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, everyone, for the patience. I know it was a heavy agenda and lots of good stuff. And I think we dealt with it very well, so appreciate the support.